The Morning Dump from Hurrdat Sports with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Welcome back to The Dump, the only place for extra thought, extra conversation that we can't get to on Coffee and Cream, or maybe expanded conversation that we didn't really get to touch on all too much, and it actually came during a conversation with Brian Christopherson at 8 o'clock. DB ran a question his way that was referenced on our afternoon radio show here on Hail Varsity Radio, which is with Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbal, about Coach Ron Brown on the show. I shouldn't say about. When Coach Ron Brown was on the show, he referenced this quote: "You have to have the ability to overcome intimidation, and I like the fearlessness so far that I've seen." So that's just the short form. If you want to catch the whole quote, head over to H Varsity Radio. You can catch the clip there. But that's what DB was referencing when he asked BC that question. And it's interesting because are people underselling that? Are people not buying into it as much? Fearlessness, and you're a big fearless guy, and it's something that we found out even when we had Anna Bellinghausen on last week, when you said, hey, my favorite trait of yours is you're fearless. You're not afraid to either say something wrong, be the light of a certain conversation, or to start something new, or to expand on it.
Good memory.
And that's kind of what Ron Brown is saying here when he's talking about the fearlessness of Matt Rule and this coaching staff. And let's go back, because you can go down the tree. Should we start at Tom or should we start at Rule? We'll start at Tom. When T.O. officially retired, Frank Solich takes over, and everybody's reaction to Solich was, well, you're not T.O. And then it's Bill Callahan, and Callahan is kind of that in-betweener of, do you want to be here? Do you not want to be here? And then it goes to Bo, and he was fearless, but he didn't say it the way that you wanted to hear. And then you jump over to Mike Riley, and Mike Riley was kind of just, he was Dr. Conformity. And you go on to Scotty F. And Frost was too afraid to ever be looked at as not the guy he once was in 1997. And so now you get to Matt Rule, and Matt Rule's like, hey, I have no ties. And I'm a pretty good speaker.
That may be 1,000% spot on. Like, that recap is on point. And I think all I've ever wanted for this, and I've said this a ton of different ways, but ultimately I landed on this. By the way, I'm still tripping off how good that was. That's about right if you're just going to nutshell it.
And this is outside looking in, too. Right? This isn't somebody that experienced everything that this fan base did.
All I've ever wanted was three things. Number one, you can recognize the past, just don't be held captive by it, right? Like, put your own twist on it, kind of do your own thing, move us forward. The other thing is I want you to be ultra competitive. And the other thing is I want you to be tough when it comes to being able to handle questions and personalize it as though it means something to you. Don't pawn it off on something else. Just own it, embrace it, say it. You know, I would always give the examples of, you know, if I was Coach Riley, I'd say, listen, man, I'm hamstrung a little bit. I know I made some mistakes with this offense. I went and studied the quarterback run game, and then I got away from it. I just wasn't familiar with it. I need to revamp some things if I was Bo. Hey, listen, do you know why I acted out? I acted out because I couldn't get the attention that I needed in order for my program to function behind the scenes. There were too many barriers. I want you to know why I melted down. I'm hypersensitive and I'm ultra paranoid. So those personality traits, I need security. Provide me with some security. Callahan was so indifferent as a pro, he didn't get it. And he couldn't care less because college is sometimes seen as a step down when you've been in the NFL, especially if you've played in the Super Bowl. And then there was Coach Frost, obviously, who just wanted to not let you peel back the curtain. Hey, my family's off limits. Hey, don't talk about this. Hey, we're not going to address this. If you ask me a question this way, I'm going to be
Nor
super
did he want to
sarcastic.
fail.
I'm super sarcastic here, so I'm gonna BCD, right? Blame, complain, deflect. Somebody else's fault. Whatever. The thing that I love about Coach Rule that I gravitate towards is he has the skill sets that you need to function here. What's the G word that I gravitate towards that I say a coach that coaches at the University of Nebraska has to be willing to do? You have, speaking of the beanery, you have to grind. If you're not a grinder, you cannot win here. You have to be willing to look under every stone, turn it over, take a look at it, give it a feel, throw it away, or, I'm going to pocket that. I'm going to shine that bad boy up. You also have to be able to deal with the history, the shadow that Bob Devaney and Coach Osborne and 5 national championships can cast. You also have to be able to deal with the media. A lot of attention. They probably know what you had for breakfast, where you were yesterday, what you did last night. They're on flight tracker. Got to be able to deal with that. And you also have to be able to deal with the fact that this is one of the few places that knows more about your assistants and your coordinators than perhaps anybody in America. They had Dr. Elsa's resume memorized weeks ago before it was made official. Right? It's just one of those places. And so I love how he's mastered Drew down. The kind of, and I told you twice on Coffee and Cream, there's 2 things that he said that flew right over our head because we like him. He said 2 things. First time he said it was, you guys were 4-8. How are you guys going to tell me who to hire? Right? Like, I'm going to listen, but what are you going to tell me based on where I've been? That was ding, 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 number 1. This man's going to do his own thing. The other thing is what he told Will and Taylor on Bussin' with the Boys. Hey, you guys didn't win a lot of games. You were 3-8 and 4-8. Why are you worried about what I'm doing?
Taylor?
A fearless response.
Why are you worried about what I'm doing? I'm listening, but I'm going to do this the way that I see fit. And I'm like, ladies, gentlemen, he's telling you.
Right.
I can be at your small towns. We can chop it up in coffee shops. We can go grab a bite to eat. I'll even let you in my program. I'm going to make myself accessible because I'm a tremendous thinker on my feet. But guess what I'm going to do at the end of the day?
Do me.
I'm going to do me.
I'm
going to do it my way. And
what are you, Frank Sinatra?
dude, he's going to give you – I'm just – like I said, I don't know if it means winning, but that mindset gives you a chance. He's got the it's early, but on the surface, Drew Down – he's given
Looks
you.
calm and ready to drop bombs.
Hey.
But he keeps all and forgetting what he wrote down. Does the whole club go so loud? Did he open his mouth? And words actually came out. He's not joking now.
Shot.
Everybody's choking now.
You move so
Clock's
loud.
run out.
You
Nebraska's won. It's over now.
The moment, you better never let it go, yo. Yeah, like he gives you those traits. Sure as I'm sitting here and I've seen them all. Give you a chance to be successful here.
You said acknowledging history for number 1.
Yeah.
Something that he's already done.
Done it.
And he continues to do it.
Talk with the greats. Check.
He continues to do it by not only hanging out with T.O., but by also bringing back players to Nebraska that
we ordinarily would think of.
Exactly.
Right?
Check number 1. Number 2, you said, remind me again one more time.
The ability to be chummy. Hey, I'm here for you. I'm listening. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to do it my way.
Which you had just explained. And then number 3, you said, I'm trying to remember all 3 that you gave me right away.
The traits?
Yeah, the traits.
So he's quick. He can think quickly on his feet, right? So you can ask him questions about quarterback competition or what happened last year or his relationship with Coach Frost or being in Waco or being at Temple.
Right.
Or the best example, what he did and didn't like at Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
How about in day one in the presser, Drew Don, he said, yeah, you know what? I had other offers. I had other job opportunities. But 3 minutes before that, yeah, I know I was fired, so there was something into that. Like, just to say those words out loud.
To admit failure.
Dude, he's a very quick thinker.
All that being said, think about even further into his journey about what got him here. Because is there another coach that at one point was leading this team that either spoke the way you wanted him to speak or went through the trials and tribulations that Matt Rule has to his resume?
No,
because you take over a Temple team and lead them to conference championships like it was just something that you've done forever.
Like Temple has a history of it.
And then you go over and take over a scandal at Baylor, something that not only has interior issues, but exterior political issues, national issues, and you bring them back to a state to where maybe people aren't thinking about that all too much anymore. And then you go over to Carolina and completely fall flat on your face. Whether you had, the people to win there or not, Matt Rule didn't win. And he's not afraid to say it. Mm-hmm. Because when you come to Nebraska, if he were to say I'm making excuses for Carolina this, Carolina that, and then says, well, you guys were 3-8 or 3-9 or 4-8, people would be like, well, wait a minute. So are you over at Carolina. He acknowledges his path through life. He's done so many different things that at this stage, that's exactly what Trev Alberts was thinking about when he hired Matt Rule.
He's mastered the art because I think he's authentic, right? That's the number one thing that I think with him. He's authentic. Whatever it is, it's in here, is what you see and hear. He's not afraid to he's disarming. He's very disarming. And it's what I actually like. Like, you probably know more about my failures than my successes, because I think however they come up in conversation, or if we're trying to grow or move or learn about something, I think knowing where I've been and what I've been through matters.
And what makes you relatable? Your failures in life. Because more times than not,
I don't want to talk to you about things that you can't relate to.
Well, somebody else had that happen.
So, and it was hard for me to get over, right? It took some time. But I'm like, yeah, you know what? When you're like, man, you lived a life for 4 years, and you reach a point where you're like, yeah, you know what? Good liars remember detail. The best liars don't use detail. I don't need to go into remembering what I said to such and such and such and such, or where I was, or accounted for time, or how I felt about something. If I'm authentic. So that's just gonna be what you get, and that's what I love about him, because how many times has he talked about learning in teachable moments? Oh, you do this and you try to learn from it and you grow, and this is what I want to be. And that just strikes me as a guy that doesn't have it all figured out yet. And when you're willing to say that out loud, this is the best combination I think Nebraska's had in 20 years of healthy administration and a healthy coaching staff when you put them together.
Great way to tie this down. I ultimately believe that by season one's end, you're going to be very happy. I really believe that. And
going out on a limb.
And I'm not saying that he's going to make a bowl game. I'm not saying that he's going to win, 4 games and it's going to be like the past in year one. I'm not saying that it couldn't happen either. But what I really believe is there's going to be times this season that you're going to sit after every single game and say, I like what Matt Rule's doing there.
Or at least you can see it, right?
Even though we didn't win, I like the direction he went when he did this. I like his response in the post game to why he chose to do that.
Isn't that going to be something?
You are going to be happy by season's end. That's whether it's a bold prediction or not. I wholeheartedly believe that come January, whether they made a bowl game in December or not, you'll sit back, look at the season, and say, well, there's no way year 2 is going to look at like year 1. There's no way that it's going to get worse from here because of everything that Matt Rule will do this season. He'll make you believe. And I really believe that. It is Morning Dump on Hurrdat Sports. You can catch us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. That's Apple, that's Spotify. He's Damon Benning. As you can see my hand twice on the YouTube. I'm Andrew Rogers. At Andrew Rogers TV. He's at Damon Benning on Twitter. We will see you tomorrow on Coffee and Cream.